Hi, everybody. I'm going to be reviewing a book called The Collapsing Empire by John Scalzi. I do not have a physical copy of the book to hold up and model like I normally would. This was an ebook that I read on my Kindle, which was a Christmas present that I got this last holiday season. Anyway, I did not like this book. I thought it was a flaming pile of garbage. It is the first in a series, and I will not be completing the series because of how awful this book was, which is kind of surprising because when I first purchased it from the Kindle store, it looked like it got really good reviews. I think there were a few thousand people who had reviews it, and it got like 4 or 4.5 stars or something like that. Anyway, there's a bit of a disconnect for me there because I personally did not like the book. In a nutshell, what the book is about is there's this thing called the flow, which connects all the planets that humanity has colonized in the future. It's this kind of extra dimensional realm of space where ships can move faster than light. And in the middle of all this is this government that's formed from an emperor and a church and these guild houses, and they all kind of merge into some quasi government thing or whatever. And what is discovered throughout the book is that the flow is collapsing, and pretty soon all of these human settlements will be disconnected from each other. The problem with that is they are not able to survive without each other. They are all dependent on one another. So that's kind of the driving plot of the book. Now, why did I think that this book was a flaming pile of garbage? Well, there are several reasons. I guess the first thing is I thought that the writing itself was pretty repetitive and boring. There was a lot of dialogue, and it was all blah, 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 he said. Blah, 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 she said, he said, they said, she said. It's like the author could think of no other words to think of except said. No, replied, quipped, retorted, responded, answered, anything like that. It was very dry and boring writing, which might be an editor's fault, but I'm going to blame the author anyway. Um, there were also way too many characters. Every single chapter, right up until the end, was a new character. So, you start a new chapter, new characters, new characters, new characters. It got to the point where it was so oversaturated with characters that I couldn't keep straight who was who, and you almost would have to write down a little map or key of who this person was, if they belonged to a guild or the church, and what they were doing. It was way, way, way too much to keep track of. Kind of along the same lines of that, all of the names in the book were way too sci-fi-y. Nobody had an recognizable name. In Star Wars you have Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn, but at least you have like Luke every once in a while. In this book, everybody had a name that was 10 consonants and one vowel. Just alphabet soup mushed together to sound futuristic and science fictiony. It was very gimmicky and very hard to read. And then the last thing I will say about this book is there was way too much swearing. And I don't mind swearing. I swear myself. And swearing in a book usually doesn't take me out of anything if it's done well. But in this instance, basically every character dropped F bombs every sentence. It just felt totally unnecessary and kind of gratuitous. It didn't really advance the plot or the characters since everybody swore. You didn't really differentiate one character from another. And the whole thing just felt very cheap and gimmicky, with the bad sci-fi names and the swearing all the time, trying to be edgy, and the whole thing just felt like one giant gimmick, which really did it a disservice. So, if I had to give this book a letter grade, I think I would give it a D. Um, the idea of a flow connecting everything and collapsing and how would these things survive without each other, that's an interesting idea. But the writing itself was just so terrible. I couldn't muster up enough to care about what happened. So I would not recommend this book. Avoid it if you can. I don't know, maybe this author has written other things that merit attention, but this one, hard pass. Anyway, that is it. Thank you for listening, and I will see you next time.